1872, America is restless. Railroads are being laid across the continent. Fortunes are being made, and greed is in the air. One afternoon, two rugged prospectors walk into San Francisco carrying a pouch of rough diamonds. Real, glittering diamonds. Within weeks, some of the wealthiest bankers, politicians, and even scientists are pouring millions into their claim. It looked like the discovery of a lifetime. But here's the twist. This was not a mine. It was one of the most brilliant cons in American history. A con so clever that even the smartest men of the age fell for it. To understand why the scam worked, you have to step into the mindset of America in the 1870s. The gold rush had ended just 2 decades earlier, but the fever of sudden riches still haunted the West. People wanted another strike, another boom, another fortune. Enter Philip Arnold and John Slack, two otherwise unremarkable men. They weren't polished, they weren't powerful. They were quiet, scruffy, almost invisible, but they carried with them something far more powerful than appearances, a pouch filled with uncut gems. They whispered about a secret mine, a field so rich with diamonds and rubies that it could rival South Africa's. And they weren't loud about it, no. They were cautious, secretive, almost reluctant, and that made the story irresistible. Arnold and Slack began carefully. They showed their diamonds only to a few trusted investors. Not too much, just enough to spark whispers. Word spread through San Francisco's financial circles. There was a secret mine out there, and only a select few could buy in. And here's where psychology comes in. The less they revealed, the more people wanted in. This wasn't just a discovery. It was an exclusive opportunity. Soon, a syndicate of wealthy men formed. It included bankers, businessmen, even a former U.S. Army general. They pooled their money to secure rights to the mysterious mine. To reassure these powerful men, Arnold and Slack staged a site visit. Investors were led to a remote field in the Colorado wilderness. There, as they dug in the soil, they found rubies, emeralds, sapphires, scattered across the ground as if nature herself had been careless with her treasures. Imagine the rush. Hardened financiers, men who had built railroads and managed empires, scrambling in the dirt like children, their hands clutching glittering stones. The illusion was perfect. But here's the problem. Diamonds don't just sit loose in volcanic soil. That detail caught the eye of a young geologist named Clarence King. Unlike the bankers, King didn't care about the thrill of discovery. He cared about the science. When he examined the so-called mine, he noticed something odd. The stones weren't embedded in rock. They were simply lying in the dirt, in a place geologically incapable of producing them. Even stranger, the gems were a bizarre mix. Some were uncut, others poorly cut, some even showing marks of European craftsmanship. King realized what no one else had dared to suspect. The mine had been salted. Arnold and Slack had purchased cheap gems overseas and scattered them across the Colorado field. The investors weren't finding a natural treasure. They were picking up bait. When the truth came out, the hoax collapsed almost overnight. The financial elite of San Francisco were humiliated. They had lost millions. The story made national headlines, and the phrase, "the Great Diamond Hoax," entered American history. And what about the two con men? Here's the surprising part. Philip Arnold and John Slack walked away with their fortunes largely intact. Arnold used his share to buy a fine Kentucky estate. Slack lived quietly. Neither faced the kind of punishment you might expect today. The greatest penalty was not legal, but reputational. The investors, the so-called smartest men of the age, were left looking like greedy fools. And this is where the story turned from crime into philosophy. Think about it. The victims weren't naive farmers or simple townsfolk. They were the nation's elite. Bankers, politicians, scientists. Men trusted to lead industries and guide fortunes. Yet they fell, because the scam wasn't built on lies alone. It was built on human weakness, greed, exclusivity, and a belief that if everyone important believes it, it must be true. The hoax worked not in spite of their intelligence, but because of it. They thought they were too smart to be tricked, and that arrogance blinded them. And here's why this matters. The Great Diamond Hoax didn't end in 1872. It repeats itself in new forms, again and again, in crypto bubbles, in Ponzi schemes, in flashy startups that promise the world and deliver nothing. Human psychology hasn't changed. Exclusivity still seduces us. The fear of missing out still blinds us. And the promise of quick riches still makes even the sharpest minds dig in the dirt for diamonds that aren't there. The lesson is simple. When everyone rushes in, that's when you need to slow down. When a deal feels too secret, too urgent, or too perfect, that's when you need to pause. And above all, remember this. It isn't the gems that fool us, it's our own greed, reflected back at us. Philip Arnold and John Slack were not great miners, or even great liars. They were great mirrors. They showed the world what it wanted to see, and the world paid dearly for the vision. But if two ordinary men could trick America with fake diamonds, imagine what a true con artist could do with something far bigger. In our next story, we'll meet the man who sold the Eiffel Tower twice